Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. My name is Tony Fisher. I serve this beautiful congregation as its minister, and I am grateful to be in that role. We welcome you into this time this morning, you who are sitting on your office chairs or on your sofas or maybe still in bed in your jammies watching on your computers or your tablets or your phones or your big screen. Welcome. It is good to have you with us. It is good to be together again. I'm here in the sanctuary as usual lately with our worship associate Joanne Husky, with Daniel Goodsit in the closet. John Forsyth is here, the chair of our technology committee, and of course Stu Shelton at the piano. We all welcome you into this space, and now I'll let Joanne give you the more sort of formal welcome.
Good morning. I'm Joanne Husky, and I'm the worship associate this morning. We're glad you're with us, whether you're watching this live Sunday morning or you're watching the recorded version later in the week. We want you to know that you are always welcome here. Our mission statement says that we are a welcoming community, freely seeking intellectual and spiritual growth. We strive to create a larger community of peace, justice, and love. If you've joined us since the pandemic started, we hope that you are on our mailing list and getting all of the interesting opportunities for fellowship and learning that are being offered during the week. We urge you to check out our website and email us if you're not on the mailing list at office@uunaples.org. We would love to hear from you. There is really a lot going on here, even during this time of forced separation. Each week, you'll see links that offer you various opportunities. You can also join our UUCGN virtual coffee hour Facebook page. And if you're watching this morning live, please use the chat button to communicate with others who are watching today. I have a couple of special announcements. This year's forum, our weekly speakers series, is going to be happening on Zoom on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. This week, tomorrow night, Suzanne Lowe from the League of Women Voters will be talking to us about how to make your vote count. Please join us. The Q&A with the minister continues on Thursday evening. So to see all of these and many, many other things, please check out our weekly and monthly newsletters. Today we are focusing on the fifth principle of Unitarian Universalism. It states that we believe in the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in the society at large. As you know, we are in the middle of a very significant election, one in which we, the people, will decide our future. Our democracy gives us the right to have a voice in our own government, but our very democracy is being challenged in many ways and needs defending. Today, we will explore what democracy means to us. So now, please get comfortable, turn off your cell phones, take a deep breath, and let's enter together into worship with this morning's prelude.
Our opening words today come to us from Nelson Mandela, former political prisoner and then president of the nation of South Africa. Mandela wrote, "I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. But I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I've taken a moment to rest here, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended." Let's join together in our chalice lighting response. Words are on the screen. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. Let's join together in singing our opening hymn. The melody should now be familiar to you with our opening music. "Gather the Spirit" by singer-songwriter and Unitarian Universalist Jim Scott. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, in body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion, and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Why do we vote? In order to get an idea of what democracy means to all of us, I contacted several members of our congregation and asked them why they vote. Today, you're going to hear from a lot of your friends about their thoughts. The first video I'd like to show you is a PSA that I produced for the League of Women Voters on the occasion of the 19th Amendment's anniversary, when women gained the right to vote. 100 years ago, women fought to win the vote. I am a woman, and I am ready to vote. Are you? Don't let your ancestors down, and don't let your country down. Women power the vote. Bill McCormick, who is the president of our board of directors, and his wife Maria have produced a beautiful video of why Bill votes.
Good morning, everyone. Maria created this video because Joanne Husky asked me to make a statement about why I vote. Joanne's request made me think about an act of American citizenship that I've always taken for granted. Full disclosure, I have been a political junkie since I was 6 years old. As the youngest of 9 children, I remember growing up in a strongly politically concerned household. As a student in the public elementary schools, I wore buttons for Democratic Party candidates going back to Adlai Stevenson in 1952. As I thought further about Joanne's request, especially in the autumn of my life, it brought to mind the lives of my older military veteran siblings who are gone. I have a special duty to carry out our family tradition and to honor them. I think of my dad, who was given an a 1A draft classification to join the Army in World War I. As a machinist engineer, my dad was responsible for developing about 20 prototypes of what became the ubiquitous 8-inch howitzer. Both the U.S. Army and his employer wanted him to complete his project rather than send him to fight in Europe. The resulting artillery piece was highly accurate and subsequently produced in thousands for the U.S. and British military forces. I vote to honor my dad. I vote to honor my sister, Isabella, who enlisted in the Navy as a wave and was sent to Washington to draw maps in World War II. She met my late brother-in-law, Bill, a classmate in art school who attended also under the GI Bill. He served in the Marines in the Pacific Theater in World War II. I vote to honor my brother David, who was so proud of his service in the Navy on America's first super aircraft carrier, the USS Forrestal, during the late 1950s. I vote to honor my late brother Bob, who served in the Army in the 1950s on the front lines in Korea. He told me that it was so bitterly cold in the winters that he and his buddies would sleep on the tanks, which were kept running all night and helped to keep the troops warm. I vote to honor my late sister Emily, who was a nurse at Valley Forge Army Hospital during the Vietnam War, and to honor her late husband Tom, who served in the Marines also in World War II. I also vote to honor my late UUCGN friends, Niels Knakergaard, Joe Beckler, and Joe Richards, all World War II veterans. As I look ahead to uncertain times, I also vote to secure a peaceful future for our young Americans, such as those who have participated in Emerson Academy. And finally, I vote especially for a better future for my very own grandsons, Daniel and William. We all have good reasons to vote. Let's do it.
Jim Lancaster has been involved in this congregation for 20 years and currently sits on our board of trustees. But his life experiences in the Peace Corps, in government, and in volunteer service have been fueled by his passion for equality and justice and his hope for a compassionate world. Here's why Jim votes.
I'm Jim Lancaster. Why do I vote? I vote because I want to see an effective person win a political contest whom I believe will work for equality in the best interest of the majority of our people. Money in politics and programs are involved, and without voting you have no say in these things. African Americans, Hispanic, and are often live in poverty and need government programs to help them with jobs, food, and health care.
Thinking of Jim, thinking of Bill and all his family members reminds us that the vote is a very personal thing and an appropriate thought as we enter into our time together in reflection and meditation and silence. Let's join together in singing our centering hymn, Comfort Me by Mimi Bornstein-Doble. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. We take a deep breath and get ourselves centered together, understanding that for each and every one of us, this is a time of anxiety, concern, a mix of hopes and fears, a desire for good outcomes. We sit together but apart, and that only adds to the mix. As usual, on Sunday mornings, we speak about those who are on the front lines of serving others in the pandemic, in our national services, in our government, in our institutions. We honor those who work hard for the creation of the United States, the ongoing creation. We hold in our hearts all those families who have lost members to the pandemic, who continue to hold them dear, even though sometimes the grieving can't be complete. And we honor you in all the complexities of your days, your joys and your sorrows, those you hold dear. And we urge you in this moment to think and speak the name of anyone that you're thinking about. Say it out loud. Getting that word, or those words, that name out can be helpful in honoring those that we care about. Our morning meditation comes to us from the Reverend Alicia Ford, who serves the Unitarian Universalist congregation as one of its lead staff members. She is a thoughtful, creative, powerful voice. Spirit of life, when we pause to remember who we are, companions on this grand experiment called life. When we take a moment to shed the ways we have been carefully taught, to lead from fear, to punish the poor, to persecute those who don't look like we do, to deny rights to those who love, to believe that we are separate, that some people are superior to others. When we take a moment to shed all of that and hear our stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community, when we take a moment to embrace, to practice a different way of being, when we answer the call of love, then we are living into the promise of building the world we dream about. It is beautiful to dream, to cast a vision, to stretch our minds out into the future and imagine. Imagine what may be if we were to build a new way of being. Not someday, but beginning today. Beginning again every day that we have breath. Taking courage with these hands and hearts to make them real, to make a real, more equitable world. To journey together, seeking to understand and be transformed even as we transform ourselves. Becoming explorers and learners in this world around us, humbled by what we do not yet know. Fulfilling the promise of healing a fragmented world, laboring not just in hope, but also in love. Spirit of love, in this spirit we commit. In this spirit we gather. In this spirit we imagine. Let's take a few seconds together in silence.
What is democracy? The term democracy first appeared in ancient Greek political and philosophical thought in the city-state of Athens. The word comes from demos, common people, and kratos, strength, the strength of the people. Aristotle says, if liberty and equality, as is thought by some, are chiefly to be found in democracy, they will be best attained when all persons alike share in the governments to the utmost. Thomas Jefferson, in the Declaration of Independence, radically stated, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." De Tocqueville said, "The health of a democratic society may be measured by the quality of functions performed by its private citizens." Susan B. Anthony stated, "Women struggled for your right to vote. Make sure you use it." George Washington, in his farewell address as he turned over power to his successor, stated, "The unity of government which constitutes you one people is also now dear to you. It is justly so, for it is a main pillar in the edifice of your real independence, the support of your tranquility at home, your peace abroad, of your safety, of your prosperity, of that very liberty which you so highly prize." Now let's hear from one of our congregants, Ron Baldwin.
Hey, Joanne, this is Ron Baldwin. Thank you for asking me why do I vote. There are two good reasons. One is that voting is a privilege. It is a gift bestowed to those of us who are citizens by this democracy that we enjoy. And voting is an obligation. Unless all of us vote, we will not be represented. We need to participate actively as citizens in order to fulfill the vision that our founding members had for us. So those are two good reasons why I vote. There are others. I appreciate you asking me, and I'm looking forward to hearing what other people think and why they vote.
Thank you, Ron. Now is the time in our service to express our gratitude for this community, its work, its vision, and all the ways that it is enriching our lives. From its welcoming doors to its sheltering walls, from the serenity of our memorial garden to our work in the wider world. For this and all the ways that it works magic in our lives, this morning's offering will be gratefully received. Please consider mailing your contribution today. You can find our address and lots more about us on our website or at www.uunaples.org. Our offertory today is a song by Jim Scott, the UU songwriter who wrote our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit. But first, let's hear from Brad Cornell about why he votes.
I used to vote because I always believed and was taught that my vote counted and would make a difference. Since then, I have learned and witnessed that not everyone has been told the same thing, and some people have even been discouraged or prevented from voting. So now I vote for candidates and issues that will make it possible or closer to possible that everyone's voice will be heard and everyone's vote will count. People who are not heard descend into violence and despair. We need everyone's voice to count. That's how we're going to help the world to change and grow.
Won't be victims, won't be afraid. We got to heal the broken world we made. Make a change, make a choice. The world needs your voice. Register your intention, rock the boat. You can't complain if you don't vote. Express yourself, get everybody else. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. Make a change, make a choice. The world needs your voice. Raise your voice, now is the hour. One voice than many, speak truth to power. Cry in anguish, shout and rejoice. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. Make a change, make a choice. The world needs your voice. The forces of exclusion, obfuscation, and confusion. The heads of power, those in the shadows, will feel the rising tide, know which way the wind blows. Raise the spirit, raise a groundswell. Raise consciousness, raise a little hell. Face resounding, a joyful noise. The world needs your voice. What the world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. Make a change, make a choice. The world needs your voice. Help me sing the song. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. Make a change, make a choice. The world needs your voice. Sing it softer now. The world needs your voice. Sing it a little louder now. The world needs your voice. Won't be a full harmony. The world needs your voice. Until every voice is free. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice. The world needs your voice.
Today's reading is by Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was an American poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, one of the earliest innovators of this new literary form called jazz poetry. Hughes is best known as a leader of the Harlem Renaissance. Let America be America again. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America for me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro, bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man, driven from the land. I am the immigrant, clutching the hope I seek, and finding only the same old, stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient, endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying needs, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today, despite the dream, beaten yet today. Oh, pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet, I am the one who dreamt our basic dream, in the old world still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings, in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned. That's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas, in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, for all the songs we've sung, for all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plains. All the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
a humbling and powerful poem. It speaks not only from 1935, but it speaks to what's going on today. When I was 21 years old, full of idealism, it was time to vote in my first presidential election. Now, you might ask, why 21? Well, because at that time, when I turned 18, 18-year-olds weren't allowed the vote. That only changed in 1971 with the 26th Amendment. And so, in 1972, I entered the polling place with some anxiety, a trepidation about what would happen in there. I didn't know. But also with some excitement about my role in helping make America through my vote. I was voting in the city of Boston in 1972. In the city of Boston, where at least where I voted, we're using the old lever and gear voting machines. They were these big metal contraptions with a curtain that came across on a curved rod, sort of like looking at the Wizard of Oz and all the levers behind the curtain. It was a little daunting, especially when you opened up the curtain and looked at all the levers. But in 1972 in Boston, there was an unusual situation where there were very few names on the ballot. I was voting for president and senator, and I think one or two other elected positions. 1972 was the year that the incumbent Richard Nixon defeated South Dakota Senator George McGovern in that election. And Massachusetts was the one state, the only state that went for McGovern that year. I remember the license plates that used to sport the words, "Don't blame me, I'm from Massachusetts." Well, I voted Democratic for president, but I voted Republican for senator, voting for Senator Ed Brooke, who was an African-American, middle-of-the-road Democrat who had served Massachusetts well for a number of years already at that point. It was possible then to vote two different ways, to think two different ways when voting, thinking about voting for integrity and the person who might serve the common good the best. And yes, I was anxious going into that polling place, but I didn't carry the kind of anxiety that today many of us hold as we enter into this election period, or as we sit in this election period in the year 2020. Catherine Costello shared her reasons why she votes or will vote this year, and they reflect that anxiety.
If I'd been asked any other year of my life why I vote, it would have been simple. It's one of the privileges of living in this country, and why would you not take advantage of such a marvelous privilege? But this is 2020, and this year, if you ask me why I vote, it's really primal. I'm scared. I'm scared for my very existence.
There's a lot to be scared about, or at least good reason to be holding a high level of anxiety. We are living in unprecedented times. A pandemic has taken the lives of over 2 million people across the globe, with 20% of those deaths happening here in the United States. And many of us have had this touch too close to home, either from the illness itself or from the economic impact. Social unrest continues to occupy a portion of the news as the quest for racial justice and significant reform of our policing policies continues. and counter-demonstrations pop up here and there. The politicization of almost every issue continues to divide the population, with the current focus being the nomination of a new Supreme Court justice. An election looms where both sides say victory by the other will destroy our way of life. Trust in our government and in the systems of democracy has been eroded by the actions and inactions of the very people we have elected to lead us through such crises. And global warming, a real existential threat to the planet and to us as a species, gets far too little airtime. We are emotionally drained and without access to the kinds of community and connections that provide us with some semblance of resilience. I get it. I feel it too. Looking at the longer perspective helps sometimes. We quote 19th century transcendentalist and Unitarian minister Theodore Parker and talk about the moral arc of the universe being long but bending toward justice. Or, if you're a Thomas Merton fan like I am, you remember that all the way back in 1966, he wrote that we are living in the greatest revolution in history, a huge, spontaneous upheaval of the entire human race. Not a revolution planned and carried out by any particular party, race, or nation, but a deep, elemental boiling over of all the inner contradictions that have ever been in the human species. A revelation of the chaotic forces inside each and every one of us. Merton, who was a much-loved poet, writer, theologian, mystic, and social activist, concluded this paragraph by saying, "This is not something we have chosen, nor is it something we can avoid." The longer view, however, only helps when we can take that step back and get that distance, and that's really hard these days, given our high level of anxiety and the relentless feed of the news every day, adding fuel to the fire. It feels like there's so much on the line. We'd like to get past the idea that everything is political, but in reality, everything is political. Not because the world cares about how any one of us feels, but because the world reacts to what we do. The world reacts to what we do. So says Timothy Snyder, the author of the 2017 book On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. These are anxious times. The eminent theologian Paul Tillich spoke of anxiety and 3 levels of anxiety. He talked about the existential kind of anxiety that we all hold, our own sense of life and death, our own mortality. That included some of those forces outside our control that impact us, things like earthquakes and storms and fires and things like that will impact our own lives immediately. The second level of anxiety comes when we lose a sense of purpose, when we have a feeling of meaninglessness. And that too is problematic and raises our inner anxiety because we don't know what to do or where to go or how to turn. And the third level of anxiety is our own sense of guilt, our own understanding of ourselves in the moral universe, whether we're living up to our own sense of our best selves or whether we're not living up to societal norms or whether we've committed a lack of kindness to other people. For Tillich, all of these anxieties exist within us at any given time, and today, in this climate, almost every level of anxiety exists within us and within society. Tillich talked about the way to approach, to confront those anxieties was to settle them into specific fears and then act on those fears, because anxiety is sort of a general sense of unease, but fear itself can be identified and acted upon. There will always be our own sense of mortality, but beyond that, to deepen and find our own sense of meaning, to recognize where we have not been our best selves, those are things that we can act on, that we can do something about. And when we look around us in the greater society, we understand where our moral values lie and what we need to do to act upon those things that we fear that impact us. Tillich's book was called The Courage to Be. And that's very much in line with our Unitarian Universalist principles. Thomas Snyder, who wrote that book about 20 lessons from the 20th century, also said that the minor choices we make, the way we are courage to be, are themselves a kind of a vote, making it more or less likely that free and fair elections will be held in the future. This is political. In the politics of the everyday, our words and gestures, or their absence, speaks volumes, and they count very much. The symbols of today enable the realities tomorrow, and our vote is a strong and important symbol within our democracy. This is how communities and societies work. The greater the sense of belonging, the greater the participation, the more effortless the systems work, regardless of people's differences in any one moment. It's about trust and flow on a larger scale, trust in the systems. When we lose a sense of trust, our tendency can be to withdraw. And in democracy, we are free to do that. But we do so at the risk of losing our voice and letting our other voices be louder, have more impact, and make change that may not benefit us or the common good. If too many withdraw from the process, it undermines the strength of the democracy. It cedes power to others. Joanne mentioned the fifth principle, the fifth Unitarian Universalist principle, and we are, as a movement, invested in the democratic process. Our 7 principles are the ethical guidelines that serve as a common thread in our individual and collective search for truth and meaning. The fifth of our 7 principles states that we, as Unitarian Universalists, affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. But holding up that one principle belies the moral strength of all 7. To understand our commitment to a system of, by, and for the people, you have to talk about our first principle, which affirms the dignity and worth of all people, and the second that calls for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and the 6th, which calls for a world where peace, justice, and liberty for all prevail, and tying it all together, the belief in our interdependence with each other, with other creatures, and with the earth on which we live. These principles and the underlying sense of caring for each other and the larger whole, is what Unitarian Universalism is all about. And we can hear now these words given to us by our member Kathy Sharon in her own way, speaking of the importance of the vote.
Hi everyone, this is Kathy from Minnesota. I know the conversation today is about the vote and its importance. And so in reflecting upon its importance to me, I think about it in a couple of ways. One is that it's the way I express caring about my government, caring about my community, caring about who our elected officials are and what they stand for, caring about how our government treats other people. And I guess I really believe that you can't care very deeply if you don't care in that way, by voting for those things that are going to influence all of those people in all those areas. And then the second thing I was thinking about is that it seems to me that you just sort of disappear and don't exist if you don't vote, or at least the things that you think and do don't count. Maybe that's a little strong, but it seems to me that you're being more like wallpaper or paint on a wall than you are being engaged in an active member of your community. So I don't know how you can really show caring or be a caring person when you don't engage in really thoughtful process of voting for public policy, for elected officials, for the direction that you want your community to take. And that's why I vote.
Thank you, Kathy. Voting is an act of caring, an act of faith, or if you will, an act of creativity or of imagination. To vote is to answer the call of love. For while you may think you are voting for yourself, your vote will indeed affect many, many people. And if you think of it in that way, your vote should not be for you or for your party specifically, but for the common good of all people. Teresa Parsa, ordained Unitarian Universalist minister who now leads a nonprofit dedicated to fostering constructive public conversation that improves our understanding of one another, writes, "We who live in a democracy are constantly asked to choose between our faith in the abstract ideals of our political system and our doubt that we can affect anything at all. It's the same basic question that is at the heart of all religious journeys. Will I act as if I'm connected to something greater and therefore as if my life and actions are significant? Or will I act as if I'm completely separate and isolated from others and therefore as if my life and actions are of no consequence?" I loved Jim Scott's new song, "The World Needs Your Voice." But his hymn, "Gather the Spirit," has always been one of my favorites because it speaks of our common humanity and goodness, and that we, like our democracy, are always a work in progress that needs us to gather up our spirits and continually harvest our individual and collective power in gratitude, in sympathy and compassion, and in our collective strength to make a difference for ourselves, for each other, and for the world. I want to close with some words from my colleague Sarah Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in this time of uncertainty, of fear and angst, our nation holds its collective breath. In this time when rhetoric blusters about and words are used as weapons, our nation clenches its fists, tightens its shoulders, eyes squeezed shut. Some are preparing for a fight. May we remember we are people of resilience. We have faced uncertainty before. We have weathered storms. We have been consumed by flames. We have risen like the phoenix from the ashes, and we will again. We, the people. May we remember our shared humanity, our universal kinship, our interdependence as we unclench our fists and breathe together, breathing in love and breathing out peace. May we recognize the spark of the divine inside each one of us, even those we're not quite sure about. In this time of uncertainty, we remember the good will go on as we work to move forward together. We, the people, seeking that which unites us with our arms reaching out wide for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. May love prevail. I turn our benediction over to Janet Hoffman, who tells us about the reasons she votes.
I vote because I care. I care about my country, my community, my friends, and yes, I care about my family. I care about the future, our clean water and air, our health care, fair wages, the rights of LGBTQ people, and of women and those with disabilities. It is my responsibility as a citizen. It is especially important to vote in Florida. An election was won with as little as a 537 vote difference. Our vote is our voice. Please use it.
Today comes from our friend Leah Morris.
We are stronger than our pain. We are greater than our fear. We are made of each I am, and we choose where we stand. We don't you let no pain and fear drown our pain. We don't you let no pain and anger greater